I now reconvene. Is this on? Is it on? Am I on? Oh, I can hear out there. Okay. I'll try it again. I now reconvene to the regular meeting of the Board of Education at 7 o'clock p.m. with Blair, Cruz, Na, Orozco, and Fikes present. Before we begin, please silence all electronic devices and note that these proceedings are being recorded. Pat.
The board met in closed session from 5:10 to 6:58 p.m. regarding conference with legal counsel, existing and anticipated litigation, student discipline, public employee discipline dismissal release, public employee appointment coordinator behavior intervention, and conference with labor negotiators, agency designated representatives Sylvia Orozco and James Naw. Unrepresented employee, new superintendent Dr. Norm Enfield. Pursuant to Education Code 44929.21, the board authorized the superintendent or his designee to issue a notice of non-reelection to certificated teacher identified by employee number 25113 by unanimous vote of 5-0 with Cruz, Blair, Na, Orozco, and Fikes voting yes. No further action was taken, which requires public disclosure.
I'm happy to invite a former student of mine, Dylan Nguyen, to the podium to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. He's not on either. Go ahead. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. He's adorable. He says, I don't remember it. We are now at the student showcase and presentations, and starting the event are students from Ayala High School's choir under the direction of Robert Davis. Mr. Davis.
Hello everybody, my name is Robert Davis. I am the Director of Choirs at Ayala High School. Who you see before you are members of the vocal ensemble, the top audition group. We're going to be singing Only in Sleep.
Michelle Harmon, and I'm a senior.
I'm Lynn Wabaker, and I'm a sophomore.
I'm Josh Ivanhoe, I'm a senior.
I'm Jessica Ma, and I'm a junior.
I'm Melinda Cruz, I'm a senior.
I'm Marisa Valenzuela, I'm a sophomore.
I'm Christian Obana and I'm a junior.
I'm Amanda Kong, and I'm a sophomore.
I'm Maya Aragon, and I'm a senior.
I'm Dylan Wynn and I'm a senior.
This is Mr. Davis's first year.
Wow.
Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Eddie Dong, and I'm a senior from SIL High School, and I'm the president of Earth Club. I just want to share with you guys some sort of ideas and plans that we have for our upcoming Earth Day celebration. This is going to be held on April 20th, 2018. And so we're basically holding a day-long celebration. During the day, we're going to have an assembly in NPR to have speakers come and talk about sustainability and ways to keep our physical health and well-being, and ways to sort of be more environmentally friendly. Then after school, we're going to have a bigger celebration. We're going to have clubs come and instead of booths, we're hopefully going to have the Western Municipal Water District come, basically teach students ways to obviously save more water and be more environmentally friendly. And so we had a workshop a few weeks ago where we press our own flowers, and then we end up making them into bookmarks, and I laminate them and basically finish them up. So I'll hand them out to you guys. So yeah.
Great job, students. Great job. So I guess no discussion tonight.
Yours is working though, right?
It is. It was. Now I'm not working. I'm working out there. Test. Now I'm working.
We're not working. Test.
We can use our big girl voices.
Meeting's over.
That's what I think. The next guest is from Chino Hills, Kiwanis. Mr. Bill Taylor is here to announce the winners of their recent writing competition. Mr. Taylor.
Thank you very much for giving us a chance, Chino Hills Kiwanis, myself, and the teachers at Townsend, to kind of give you a little bit of background on this wonderful event that Townsend partners with us on over in Chino Hills. Every year we put together a competition, and it's open to all the schools. And this year, Townsend and the 7th and 8th grade classes really grabbed onto it. We provide them an opportunity to interview veterans, and we've done this for 9 years. Contest again is open to all 7th and 8th grade. What the students are asked to do is write an essay based on the interview that they have, and the essay is what I learned serving my country. And what they're interviewing veterans about is to try to understand the veterans' experience and then try to reflect it, and then judges look at these essays, and which are amazingly written essays, and try to pick from all of the contestants. This year, over the years, we started with only a dozen essays the first year, and it's grown to almost 400 essays.
Wow.
And what the students win is a flag that was flown over the U.S. Capitol. And what we did was we did a recognition over in Chino Hills at the city council meeting a couple of months ago. And what we wanted to do was recognize the students, recognize Townsend and the wonderful partnership that we have with the administration there, with the teachers who open their doors in September and October, provide a place where we can bring a number of veterans, and they move their leadership and history classes through the auditorium and provide the students in their class time to sit with a veteran and really engage with kind of this cross-generational conversation. And what we have found is that it really brings history to it makes it alive for the students. And it builds a connection between the students and the older generation and the values that they impart. And you would be absolutely amazed at some of the thoughts that come through in these essays. And we've also had veterans reflect back to us as to how valuable that experience was for them to be able to share that with youth. So before I announce the few students who are here, I wanted to just give a huge thank you to the Townsend administration. I see a couple of them here. And say thank you very much. We would love to have the opportunity to spread this to some of the other schools as well. Thank you. So without further ado, I wanted to... Oh, okay, perfect. Now raise your hand if you're a student. I see... Yes, good. Dylan, Cassidy, okay. Well, let's go through this. Okay, so Miss Cassidy Dives. Miss Cassidy Dives won second place in the 7th grade category. Cassidy, come on. And so what Cassidy was presented with was a flag flown over the Capitol. Nice. Cassidy, here you go. And if you can stand, we take a picture in a second. Where should they stand?
Right here, and then we'll move so that...
Okay. We can have...
Actually, we can move right now.
If we could have Dylan Boswell come up, please. Dylan's an 8th grader at Townsend. He interviewed a veteran and placed second in the 8th grade category. Go, Dylan. Congratulations. And Serena, come on up. All right. Oh, Rhea, I'm sorry. Yeah, come on up, Rhea. And Rhea won first place in the 7th grade category. She interviewed Raymond Castro of the Marine Corps. So there you go, Rhea. And those are the students that we were able to have come tonight. Do the parents want to come up and take a picture?
Yeah, come on up.
Yes, please. Can I just take a picture?
Please. Thank you very much. Did they all get flags? Or?
Yes, they all get flags, and as a matter of fact, the fact that the 3 of you are here, I'll be able to give you 2.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
And again, I just wanted to thank the school district for supporting opportunities like this, and for the school again, and I would hope to spread this to other schools as well. Thank you.
That's great.
Congratulations again.
And before you begin, we have some parents leaving. I understand we're going to be joined by at least 12 students from Don Lugo's student government program coming to observe, so we welcome them to join us. Students, there's seats in the front, as always. And now we'll continue the meeting with Dr. Park's next report on the LCAP.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Joseph, Cabinet, and community, we have our third part to our annual update on our local control accountability plan. Specifically, we'll be reviewing the English Learner Progress Indicator. The English Learner Progress Indicator, also known as LPI, is aligned to Priority 4 Student Achievement. I would like to introduce Mary Salcido, who is our Director of Access and Equity, who will be explaining how this state metric is calculated, review the performance of our English learners, and also share with you the actions and services that we have in place to support the needs of our English learners.
Good evening, President Fikes, members of the board, Superintendent Joseph, Cabinet. So we're going to go quickly over what I do all day, every day, and that is focus on English learners. And we're going to begin with the English Learner Progress Indicator. It's a bit of a complicated formula, and it will become even more complicated in the next slide. But the LP determines the progress of English learners. And the progress of English learners has three components. The first component is the CELT data. So how are our students moving along in their English proficiency? Next is the reclassification data. And finally, the long-term English learner data. A long-term English learner is a student who was enrolled in our schools or American schools as of the first Wednesday of the month of October and are in grades 6 through 12. They've been in U.S. schools for 6 or more years. They remained at the same English language proficiency level for 2 or more years, or have actually regressed in their English language proficiency as the test increases in challenge of their academics as well as their language. In grades 6 through 9, they may be at the SBAC level of standard not met. And in grades 10 through 12, LT determination is based on their CELT level only. Now we're going to go over how our state determines, and it is a calculation, quite the calculation as you can see, the English Learner Indicator formula. So they begin with all of the English learners or CELT takers who've increased 1 CELT level. Then we add the annual CELT takers who've reached proficiency in early advanced or advanced on the CELT. Then we add English learners who were reclassified. And finally, we add the long-term English learners who've increased 1 CELT level. And then we divide that large number with the number of annual CELT takers or English learners who were reclassified, plus the students who were reclassified in the prior year. So that's how it was calculated for this particular year. It will change in the upcoming year and be very simple in that it will be current year minus prior year status. And all of that is going to be, I see your faces responding to that. It's quite the math problem. It is a formula, and we're glad that it's going away, and we will have a more refined formula in the upcoming year. But there is a caveat to that. There is a problem, or a perception of a problem in my world. A school district is not identified in the area of LP unless they have 30 or more self-takers in the current and prior years. Next year, which is the complication to the formula, we will have the LPAC, English Language Proficiency Assessment for California, replace the CELT. And you know when we replace an assessment, the result is baseline scores. And often when we have baseline scores, we are not actually sure until the State Board of Education tells us what they actually mean in terms of values. So it'll be interesting to see how that progresses in the upcoming year and how it guides us for our 10% of our student body, which are English learners. 2,799 students in our district are English learners. These are our demographics for elementary school, junior high, and high school. We also have students who are English learners who are identified as long-term English learners. And I explained a little bit about that before, but the way the data comes to us from the state identifies two categories of students. Students who are at risk of becoming LPEL students, and those would be students who have been English learners for about 5 years. And then there are long-term English learners, which are students who've been, as we said earlier, English learners for 6 or more years. They've been in the EL program. And the results there are 257 at risk, 279 long-term. But I do want to celebrate that when I arrived at the district, there were over 1,100 students in this category. And now there are 536 students in this category. So I do want to celebrate the work that we're doing with students. This is our reclassification rate. As you can see, over years, we always exceed state and county percentages. And we were very fortunate in the past year to reclassify 1,141 students. The reason for the increase is we had a bit more flexibility last year because of where we were with SBAC. Right back to that baseline scores and what they mean over time. So we were able to reclassify students using a criteria that was broader. So we could use parts of SBAC, the interim assessments, we could use grades, we could use our units, performance tests. So we were able, under state criteria, to look at the student as a complete picture. Teacher recommendation, parent opinion, consultation, as well as all of these other criteria that we could use. And that gave us a very unique opportunity to reclassify many of our students entering junior high and entering high school. And so we had a large number of students and their parents reach out to our department to thank us for this opportunity because their students were able to access electives. And when students access electives, they are motivated, they are excited, and they see possibilities for success beyond high school. And so it was a very unique opportunity. I believe this unique opportunity will come again next year because of the baseline scores of LPAC. We'll be able to look at the child fully and consult with our Chino Valley educators to ensure that we are identifying the correct students for reclassification. So with all of that data in mind, we look at the 5x5 or the dashboard, and you can see that our student English learners have a great color, or good color as they say, in the color is green. So our students are making progress, and it does show in our assessment results. So how do we do that? Well, we do a number of things in our district. And we're going to start with ELD curriculum. We have a new ELD curriculum in elementary. I'm sure you've heard the word wonders many times before. In our junior high, we are currently conducting an ELD pilot to establish next steps in that area. And we also use a software called System 44, which is part of Read 180, which is support for students in the areas of their gaps in ELA, or English Language Arts. In our high school, we have replaced our ELD Edge curriculum with a curriculum that matches California Common Core standards and complete and total kits of every level for our high school teachers at each of our high schools. And they also have access to System 44. One of the most important mandates or compliance issues out of the Office of Civil Rights is the designated ELD time, which is a 30 to 45-minute period where we focus on teaching the language, English language, so that students can access the content and the core when they have completed that daily period. This also occurs at our junior high and high schools in our ELD courses, 1 through 5. So what else did we do? We provide curriculum, we provided the band data, and we have a wonderful group of teachers that ensures that our English learners have designated ELD every day. So what does Access and Equity do, and what does Chino Valley do as a curriculum department to support that? Well, we have ELD instructional coaches at the secondary level, and they work with the teachers specifically on language demands of English learners, and all teachers. PE teachers, math teachers, ELA teachers, history teachers, all of the teachers have been trained in language demands. And we're still working our way through high schools. We've completed Chino Hills High, and we're working in Chino at this time, Chino High. Staff development is available to all of the designated ELD teachers, K-12, and at the secondary level, the ELD course teachers. We provide support to our Title I priority schools, our schools that have additional challenges as well. To support parents of our English learners, Carol Sweat and Brenda Froya at the Family Engagement Center support parents through the EL Parent Academy, DLAC, and other educational experiences. We support site administrators with the implementation of ELAC as well as school site council, and our focus is increased parent engagement and involvement. So we use a lot of translation so that everyone feels comfortable to contribute and use their voice as part of that opportunity. We also have a professional development specific to our school community liaisons. They meet once a month with Carol Sweat and Brenda Froya, and they work on strategies for engaging and involving EL parents.
Any questions from board members? Mr. Cruz?
Yeah, as for the, the high risk for the long-term ELs, is that one of the factors, is it absenteeism?
Whenever a student is struggling with academic content, you may see that, but we don't often see that as, I can't say that's the case across the board. That would be a small percentage of that group.
I still, wow.
But as you know, when there is an academic challenge, students often choose to avoid, and we offer, through our wonderful classified and certificated personnel, opportunities for students to feel connected to school, to be able to participate, to have the supports they need going forward.
Well, yeah, thank you. And we do notice that we are above the state
Yes.
and the county.
Correct.
So it tells you there's a lot of things going on. You got parent involvement, which we discussed. You got teacher involvement and the curriculum, data analysis and interpretation. But the curriculum, the EDGE and Read 180, are those programs pretty powerful programs? Because a lot of folks are using those programs.
Those are very rigorous programs, but what is most important is they assist students with the gaps in their learning of English language.
Oh, I see.
So I haven't maybe understood clearly a skill that I was supposed to learn in a certain grade, and so this gives me another opportunity to practice that skill and work on that through an intervention program.
So maybe the curriculum itself may be impacting the scores.
I think what impacts scores most is our wonderful teachers.
Okay. most
And the
definitely.
Access and Equity team is
Yes.
very supportive of the teachers of Chino Valley.
Well, thank you. Well done.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Dr. Park and Salcedo. We are now at comments from our student representative. Where? Oh, sorry, Greg. Measure G bond update, the final presentation. Greg Statura will be
No,
giving
we
us an
don't
update
want.
on the Measure G bond. Mr. Statura. I was so eager to move on. Sorry. I am.
Poor Greg. Was Measure G named after Greg?
No, it was, Mike is working. No, it was
Oh,
not.
after Grace. Oh, okay. The microphones are on.
Good evening, President Fikes, board members, Mr. Joseph, cabinet, and community. Mrs. Orozco and Mrs. Fikes asked for a update on our Measure G bond here a few weeks ago, and we did have some new information to share. We've got some old information to share, which is kind of a recap of things, of where we've been, and we want to touch on where we're going. So Martin Silvera, our Director of Maintenance Operations and Construction, is going to assist me tonight because he's got some insight onto some of the scheduling, but I will kick it off. So with that, the recap of Measure G. In November 2016, if you recall, the Chino Valley voters passed a bond measure for the district in the amount of $750 million. That was also known as the Student Achievement, Repair, and Safety Measure. The official ballot language is to upgrade neighborhood schools, retain and attract quality teachers by repairing deteriorating classrooms and restrooms, replacing deteriorating rusty pipes and ensuring safe drinking water, removing asbestos and lead paint, upgrading fire safety, science and computer labs, wiring, classroom technology, repairing, constructing, and acquiring educational facilities, sites, and equipment. So as I said, it passed in November 2016. In January of 2017, if you recall, we had a board study session where the board prioritized the first issuance of bond funds and how the money would be spent. And what you approved was the modernization of 11 school sites, and they are Butterfield Ranch, Cattle, Country Springs, Eagle Canyon, Hidden Trails, Lytle, Oak Ridge, Rolling Ridge, Canyon Hills, Townsend, and Ayala High School. Now those schools qualify for modernization merely on the fact that they are now 25 years old or older. We've got a number of other schools that are that age or older, but they were modernized under Measure M, our previous bond measure. The first issuance also includes additions and renovations of our junior high school science labs, the reconstruction of Chino High School, and the property acquisition and the eventual construction of Preserve School Number 2. In February 2017, we formed our Measure G Citizens Oversight Committee. March of 2017, we had our first sale, or our first issuance of bonds in the amount of, actually the board approved the first issuance, and then in May we sold our first issuance of bonds in the amount of $208 million. So now we have a check for $208 million, or a balance of $208 million in our building fund. So if you notice at the top there, our first issuance bond proceeds were $208 million. That's our balance. Since that time, we've earned almost $484,000 in interest. We've had expenditures for the bond issuance itself, legal counsel, audit and election costs, legal forms, and advertising of some of our projects that are coming up in the amount of $530,000. We do have some payroll that comes out of Measure G, and those are the employees that are directly overseeing or working on bond-related projects. Those employees are our directors of planning and purchasing, and some of them are 50-50 general fund, 50% bond funds. Others are 100% bond funded. Our construction coordinator, we have a locksmith 3 who is solely working on our keyless access projects. I'm going to get into that. Martin's going to get into that in a little more detail here in a minute. And then a facilities and planning accountant. And all she will be doing is our Measure G processing of pay applications and everything related to the Measure G projects. We've also spent $143,000, almost $144,000 on security cameras. Our keyless access hardware to date, we've spent $190,000. Construction management services, although we will have a lot more coming, to date we've spent $8,300. We've hired WLC architects and they've done some presentations for us. They're doing a lot of design work for us and broken down into three categories. We've spent $73,000 for our science lab design, $3.3 million on our modernization designs, and to date $1.7 million on the design of the new Chino High School campus. So to date, total bond funds spent $6.2 million. Total bond funds remaining out of the first issuance, $202,246,900. And these figures are as of July 31st of this year. Okay, so our district-wide safety and security upgrades, that was a big part of our bond measure and a high priority for the board to implement some new measures in our schools to make them safer, not that they're unsafe, but to make them safer and more secure. So district-wide, we are doing security alarm upgrades, keyless access hardware where every employee will open his or her classroom door or office door, exterior-facing doors, with a swipe of their badge, and in some cases the input of a 4 or 5 digit code. And then we're also putting in security cameras as well on the exteriors of our school to try to limit the amount of vandalism we have, and when there is vandalism we can hopefully identify the perpetrators and lessen that amount of vandalism. So all sites within the school district will be receiving these upgrades over the course of the next few years. Hopefully sooner, hopefully it doesn't take a few years, but it is a lot of work, a lot of systems that go in, and we want to make sure we get it right. We don't want to have to revisit a school site after we've already been there to fix something that's not properly working. So in addition to these three systems, we're also looking at single point of entry where any visitor to the school needs to go through a single point and be greeted by somebody. They can't just walk into the school campus like some of our campuses are designed currently, where the office is in the middle of the campus and you walk into the front gate and you've got free reign. They've got to go in through a single point, sign in, use our visitor management system that we'll be talking about more in a second, and see somebody. So we need to limit that kind of access that some visitors currently have. Now, in August of this past year, we had a board study session where we laid out a plan of installing security cameras here and keyless access hardware here, and then coming back and doing keyless access back at the school we had just been to. And with all of the systems, we quickly realized that the way they interact with each other, that just was not going to work. We wanted to get into a school site, do everything that needs to be done, and get out of there and not have to revisit that school site. So we came up with a new schedule, and I'll go over that here in a second. But we've also hired a company by the name of Arcadis. They are actually in the board agenda for approval tonight, so they're not technically hired, but we've selected them to assist us with this implementation. And they are basically a construction management firm, and they've got a lot of experience with this type of work. So that's one of the reasons why we selected them for this particular type of project.
Good evening, everybody. So as Greg has indicated, we have changed the direction that we're going with the key safety and security project. And to date, we have completed a few sites with specific projects that we had started as standalone projects. So Chaparral Elementary has received the keyless system. It's completely installed. There are one or two slight programming items that need to be finished off in the next week or so. Liberty Elementary, Woodcrest Junior High have received complete camera systems, and they are operational. Rhodes Elementary and Dickey, we've actually acquired all the keyless access hardware. Today were delivered, so we're in the process of getting that project on those sites one at a time installed. We don't want to wait until we go to bid with the remaining schools, as we have lumped everything together as far as the keyless project, the camera project. So the remaining schools will be brought together, feeding with the feeder schools. So the high schools, Chino High School and its feeder schools, Ayala and its feeder schools, and so forth. Those will be bid together and go out to, and be installed as one whole project. I want to point out that the first two groups that you see, Chino High School and Ayala High School, they will go to bid and be constructed simultaneously, because we have the schools that are listed under the modernization projects. We're getting those all in the same, at the same time as we are with the first group of schools. So we should be doing about 20 schools, I think. We had 16 to 20 schools.
16 to start, yes.
Yeah, so.
I'll also add that the remaining feeder groups, Don Lugo, Chino Hills, and then the Buena Vista schools, although those are shown at later dates, we're doing everything we can to ramp them up so that things happen quicker. And we'll shuffle and make adjustments as things go. Now, right now, we show a project start for Chino High School's feeder, Chino High School and its feeders, Ayala and its feeders, starting this June and completing by December of 2019 and June of 2020. If those go as smooth as we think they're going to, we will finish them quicker, which will mean that we can start the next group quicker. But at the same time, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We want to make sure that things are done right the first time and everything's working as intended. So that is a schedule and a timeline that has some play in it that we can maneuver back and forth with. But we do want the board to understand that we will ramp things up as quickly as possible and get all of the schools done as quickly as possible, because safety and security is the #1 priority at this point. The Raptor Visitor Management System. I'm not sure if you've heard of Raptor or not, but we have had numerous meetings. Every 3 or 4 months, we have a key communicators meeting with Chino PD, Chino Valley Fire, Chino Hills PD, and we've had a lot of discussion with them about visitor management system. Don Lugo High School piloted one a little while back. It was not the Raptor one in particular, but after looking at these different systems, trying out the different systems and the bells and whistles that they have, we've selected the Raptor system, and that was the one that Chino PD highly recommended. They said, this is the system that if you were to buy one, we would like to see this installed. And basically what it is a visitors, volunteers, whoever comes into the school office, there's a kiosk. They will insert their driver's license or their California ID card and a government-issued type of ID card, driver's license, and it scans the ID card. It checks databases, state, local, federal databases for various offenses, whether it's restraining orders or things of that type. Megan's Law database, sex offender databases. It checks all of those, and if for some reason something comes back and it's a flag, they're just asked to just have a seat. The principal, the SRO, whoever at the school site that's been, that is the designee, will come out and talk to them. If there are no issues, it prints a badge. The badge says where they are going, where they belong, whether it's Mrs. So-and-so's room or the cafeteria or whatever. It also prints a picture of them on it, and it has the date on it, and basically says when they're allowed to be there and when they're supposed to be gone by. It also helps in the event of an emergency where the site administrator knows who's on campus at all times because they've checked into the office. Right now, it's just kind of you go in and there's a clipboard and you sign your name and you're there from 10 o'clock till the time you sign out, and who signs out? Hardly anybody. Now, if this works, and it worked this afternoon when I set it up, I've got a little video on, and it works. Except we have no sound. And I just shut off my computer.
That's the video.
Wrong button. While that boots back up.
elementary and junior high school modernization projects. In anticipation of the passage of Prop 51 and Measure G, in the summer of 2016, WLC Architects began the drawing and plans of 11 modernization school sites. We are at present 90% complete with those drawings and preparing to submit to DSA in March for Lytle Elementary, Oak Ridge, and Cattle. Early April, we are submitting for Canyon Hills, Townsend Junior High, and Eagle Canyon. Late spring, late April, Country Springs, Rolling Ridge are also scheduled to go to DSA.
We'll go back to the video here in a second. Since we're on science labs, we'll continue. So the junior high school science labs. After numerous meetings with the administrative staff, the science department chairs, teaching staff, and some of the school community at the junior high schools, it was determined that the only junior high school that needs a new lab, per se, is Briggs Fundamental School. If you're familiar with Briggs, their current science labs, if you will, are in 2 small portable classrooms. And in an effort to obtain parity with the other junior high schools, we will be building a new building there at Briggs, and it will eliminate portable classrooms, which is part of our master plan to eliminate portable classrooms. It will house the new science labs. It will be on parity with the other junior high schools. And at the same time, and in conjunction with our solar that's going into the parking lot, we'll be expanding the parking lot, and we'll be adding a second driveway in and out. Right now, there's one driveway in, one driveway out, and it's a nightmare if you have any experience dropping off at that school. So the new building is up here. Right now, there's 6 portable classrooms. There'll be 6 classrooms going back in to take its place. I take that back. I'm sorry. There will be 8 classrooms going back in to take the place, and they will house the science labs as well as a few other classes that are going to be displaced. Backing up to the schedule, the design is currently 25% complete. By this fall, plans will be submitted to DSA. We expect by late 2018, early 2019, DSA approval of the plans. We'll go to bid early 2019, and by early 2019, first quarter 2019, the project will go out to bid. Canyon Hills and Townsend, as well as Magnolia and Junior High School, we again met with everybody there at those schools, and their labs, although they need work and renovation, they don't need new buildings built. The labs are large enough to serve the students there. They just need to be updated to the 21st century. Similarly to Briggs, the preliminary design of Canyon Hills and Townsend is 75%. For Ramona and Magnolia, it's 25% complete. Plan scheduled for DSA submittal in April of 2018 and May-June of 2018 for Magnolia and Ramona. We expect by this summer we'll have DSA approval of plans for all 4 schools, and at that point then the bidding and construction schedules will be determined. Okay, so let me back up to the Raptor system now. Of course, now it's not going to work, so we will skip that. Okay, Ayala High School Science Wing and Modernization. Like we did with the junior high schools, we met with the Ayala High School administrative team, the science department chairs, and basically, because the school is going to be modernized, and that's a huge project, and for the most part, all classrooms are full, we need what Jim D. Camillo, our architects, called a life raft. In order to to go in and modernize a wing of classrooms, those students need to be able to go somewhere. So what we are planning on doing is relocating existing portable classrooms on campus to another part of the campus, build the new science wing. Once that's complete, the science classes that are kind of spread all over the campus, those will move into the new science wing. That will be our life raft. And at that point, then the next group of students will move into those portables, and we will modernize the next wing. At this point, the science wing plans are 70% complete. We will be going out to bid this May for the interim housing, which is the relocation of the existing portables. We'll also be submitting to DSA the science wing plans, and by this June, we expect to begin construction of the interim housing. By July of 2018, the plans of the science wing are expected to be DSA approved. By August of this year, 2018, we'll be bidding the science wing, and we expect by this September construction to start. And then a year later, August of 2019, the science wing construction should be complete, and then we can occupy the building. Fall of 2019, then, the modernization will then begin right after the occupancy of the science building, with a March of 2021 completion date.
So if you take a look at the map here, on the field, sports field, we have a location up here that the portables that are currently in place of where the large green square is, that's where the new science building is going to go. So what we're trying to do with the interim housing is, in saving dollars, we're going to take those portables, relocate them out into the field, and take up a small section of the field currently where the volleyball nets and the volleyball court is. It is the least impact to the campus. We've worked with the campus to locate that. So that would be, the first phase would be the relocation of the portables. And then followed with the science classroom build.
This is the big one, reconstruction of Chino High School. So last March 2017, we started meeting with the folks at Chino High School, the administrators, all of the department chairs for every department, community meetings. We probably had, just in the first few months alone, once the bond passed, we had half a dozen meetings. Since then, we've had all the meetings with all of those folks, the department people, the curriculum side of the house, nutrition services, because this is a huge project, and we, again, want to make sure we get it right. We've got one chance to do it. Neff Construction, they are a construction management firm. We have selected, and they've been board approved, to be the construction management firm for this project. They're working with us. They're working with the architect to determine the timeline for the project. Beginning this summer, we will be doing what we're now referring to as a phase 0, because if you're familiar with Chino High School, the new school will be built. This is where the current school is. The new school is going to be built in the athletic field area. Before we can build the new school, we need to relocate some existing athletic fields. So there's going to be some work done, which we're calling phase 0, to relocate the girls softball field to the same location as the boys junior varsity baseball field. And at the same time, we're going to go in and do some upgrades to the varsity baseball field. We'll be building them a snack bar that will serve both fields here. And once that's done, then construction of the main campus can start. And we will start with these first 3 buildings, which will be considered phase 1, and those are all the classroom and administrative buildings. So by December of this year, DSA approval of plans. By January of 2019, we'll be bidding phase 1. April of 2019, we expect construction to begin with a completion date of May 2021. As soon as that's finished, we will start phase 2, which is all the ancillary facilities, the Performing Arts Center, the library, the aquatic center, and all of the new gymnasium and all those related facilities, with a completion date of, at this point, July 2023. Again, that's the architectural rendering, but the plans we've seen to date are pretty darn close to what we see here. Now this next, and it looks like it's going to work. This is a more recent fly-through prepared by WLC Architects of the new school. I'm just teasing you, it's not going to work.
We were rooting for you, Greg.
With that, questions?
I do. Okay.
Mrs. Oresco.
No, I was going to have questions. Okay, so, oh, I don't like that echo out there. Yeah, that echo is awful. Can we turn that off?
Greg, your facilities and planning.
Maggie, it's your speakers.
Okay.
It's like Dodger Stadium.
Right. So, for instance, I feel like we're kind of, the board is, at least me, no, I should say, I feel like I am not totally, I'm not totally informed. So, like on page 9, we talk about these projects. It says Lytle, Oak Ridge, Cattle, but what is it that we're doing? So what I would like to have, and you don't have to tell me right now, but what I'd like to have is at Cattle, we're doing this. At Oak Ridge, we're doing this. I would like a project list for each site. I'd like to know what we're doing.
Sure, sure.
And I can't help but go back to Measure M, because with Measure M, I was involved with the Oversight Committee, and I was involved in really looking at what was there. And so I feel like I don't know what's going on. I just feel like it's just okay, we're doing this. Here's the project, but I don't know what's entailed in the project. So I'd like to have a project list for each site. And I know that we had a big master plan way back when, but that was kind of like a wishful thinking list. So what is it that we're actually doing? And in addition, the approximate, so you give us, I know we really don't know what the costs are because we have to go out to bid and whatnot, but I would imagine we have an approximate or a ballpark figure of what the approximate costs are going to be for each project. And so I'd like to see that as well. And the plans. So we've got plans that are 100% approved, complete. We're not seeing any plans. We're just hearing about a project. For instance, like the Briggs. The Briggs, you have a drawing, and I don't know what page Briggs was on. And so I'd like to see the plans before page 11. Okay. If we already had these plans, then they should have been presented to the board, I feel. I just think that I feel like the board is not being informed of what's going on. We had the big master plan, but that was a wish list, and so I'd like to know exactly what we're doing. Chino High School. So you talked about fields being relocated for the sports. So that kind of sounds like we might run into some issues. Are we foreseeing any issues, possible issues?
Not at this time, no.
None? So you've got baseball and softball all in the same field?
No, we've got baseball on their...
You've got the JV and...
Varsity baseball on their current field.
Right.
JV is going to be displaced. JV baseball will be displaced to the varsity baseball field because the construction, that once it takes place, is going to eliminate the current girls softball field.
Okay, so is there ever a time where JV and varsity are playing, but they're playing there's going to be any scheduling conflict?
We will work with the athletic director on the scheduling of games. It's going to take some creative scheduling by the school side and some of their games, yes.
Because not only do you have to consider them, but you have to consider their visiting team also. So there's got to make sure that we get that communication with, and make sure that we do it timely so that it's not, hey, next week we have a game, we don't know where we're playing.
No, they're fully involved at this
Okay.
point with us in the planning process.
Okay. You know I'm a sports person, so you also, for Chino High School, we talked about phases. Well, what's entailed in each phase? And you listed some of them. You listed, oh, in phase one, we're going to do this, this, and this. Okay, well, can you provide that list for the board?
Yes.
Okay. I just like detail. I like to be specific about stuff.
Mr. Dong?
Yes, on page 7, Raptor Visitor Management System. And I think it's a great idea because it would be our first line of defense. And I have received many calls from our parents just after math of that Florida shooting, massive shooting. But now we have a first line of defense, but we don't have the second line of defense should this plan fails. When clearance is not obtained, the school site administrator or SRO will be notified. That is our plan. But I don't think that would be sufficient, especially our primary schools, where you would have just one principal and one assistant principal. And it could be at the time of the day. So down the road, I really feel that we need to have every school covered by the security officers as second line of defense. And in high schools, we need to increase our second line of defense by providing our security officers with tools. The newspaper I read about the Florida shooting, the first death was from this coach who happens to be a security officer, trying to cover with his own body to save students. And second person was a teacher who's trying to let students come into his classroom to be secured, and he was shot and killed. So I'm thinking this security officer had no tools on him, just his own body with this penetrator. And when we look at our security officers, they're in a similar situations. We do not provide bulletproof vests. We don't have any other arsenals for them to combat or protect our students and our teachers. So I think this is a very serious thought, because it's no longer that we're just watching TV or reading newspapers about these shootings. And just last year, it happened in San Bernardino. So I think after doing the repairs and things already had happened, I think it's very prudent for us to start looking at protecting and having second and third line of defense for our students and our teachers. It's not where we could just depend on one system. A person could have a driver's license that is clean, but still go whack on us. So I think we have to really prepare to have each school covered by security officers. Greg? Mr. Joseph?
Are you suggesting actually having money to have more security officers at the schools?
Yeah, especially our primary schools. We do not have anybody to defend the site, protect our students, protect our teachers, or office workers or principals. We have zero, none. And without being secure and being safe, it'll be always in our hindsight that there's a danger.
We can put in, as many defenses as we think is fit.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's suicide, bullying or shootings. They're really mental health issues. Can we catch these kids before these kinds of things happen? Can we have systems in place to be able to deal with the mental health issues that lead to these kinds of problems? That's important as well.
Sure. I mean, going to the doctors is important, but then the physical invasion, the physical threat, that needs to be neutralized somehow. And we cannot do it with bare hands or have no plan. So that's my thought. And yes, it's going to take, I mean, lots of work financially and brainstorming, but we do need to protect our students and our staff members and our security officers. If they don't have any arsenal and all they have is their own body, and that is a concern. What about their lives? So I think that's when we need to think, I mean, from now, and it could be a long-term project, but we need to look into that. And also, one of the concerns that we have right now is the walkie-talkie situation, where we would have a sports event, and the office, I mean, our security officers from different sites are not able to communicate with each other. So there's a communication breakdown, and should something happens, what is our plan?
Mrs. Orozco.
This wasn't my comment, but since you said this, isn't part of making the front office the center and only one center point to where you enter part of making our campuses safe?
Yes, it is.
Our elementaries?
All of our schools.
So that's part of it, is having just one point of entry and helping secure the campuses. But my question was in regards to, Measure M had a building fund number. What is the Measure G building fund number?
Same number, Fund 21.
Okay, thank you.
So my question, Mr. Stachura, is about the junior high science labs. When we met in January with Mr. DiCamillo, he said Canyon and Townsend had no science needs, and so they were going to be put to the side. I didn't want to embarrass anybody since I knew that there were science needs at Canyon Hills. So I went to Canyon Hills and said, hey, don't you have classrooms that are being used to teach science that have no lab facilities? And they said, yes, but it isn't going to be a new building. So I just, to me, to say it's going to be upgraded or renovated doesn't tell me you're going to take a classroom and turn it into a science lab, because they currently have classrooms that are not labs.
That's true. And with the work that will be done, they will be true labs when they're finished.
So that does encompass that with upgrades and renovations?
Yes, it's just
Okay.
not that we're building a brand-new building by itself that will house science.
Okay, thank you.
And that's why it would be nice to see the plans.
Yes. Thank you. Mr. Na.
Yeah, I'd like to go back also on page 7. Yeah, the point of entry, I do understand. It's a one point of entry. But then who's protecting that point of entry site? Should there be an intruder there or penetrator? That is my concern. So if you would have a security officer right at that point of entry, I think that's going to enhance our security for our workers, our teachers, and our students. And if we were able to find any state funding or any grants, whether public or private, I think we really need to seek into that. Thank you.
I'm going to
Mr.
save you. But that's not a Mr. Stachura item, right? Security guards. So,
Well, everybody's hearing it.
Wrong pitch.
I know everybody's hearing it, so everybody's hearing it, so
So
I'm
just-
sure.
And Mr. Cruz has the floor. He is the only one who has buzzed in.
Oh.
I'm only saying.
No, I agree with Mr. Nall when it comes to security because you're involved with security. Whether we like it or not, it's going to happen again. And that's the vulnerability of happening in our school where there's our children there. And you know, the fear changes things, and then we end up having, you know, our freedom compromised. But there is something a solution to really think about the psychology of this, because we know a plane is not going to come down and hit a school. Most likely what you just said, and most likely what Mr. Joseph said, a mental case. So deep down inside, we can use these perspectives and really think real hard about it. It makes sense.
Mrs. Orozco.
I'm just kind of curious. Mr. Nar, are you saying that we have a security officer at every school? At every elementary? Is that what you're saying?
I think that's where our nation or our community is leading into, because I mean high schools, some high schools are very short-handed, but we're doing a good job. However, if you're looking at schools as a soft target, our elementary schools kind of wide open. In high schools, we have SROs and junior highs, where we have a police officer stationed. But in elementary schools, we don't have anybody. We have noon grounds person, secretaries, and teachers, and children. So if you go visit, that is a soft target.
Well, if you go visit now, I'm sure it's going to be different once they're all modernized, where you just have one point of entry. And that's why I was kind of curious, if once it's all modernized and you have one point of entry, and you have the cameras and you have the keyless, are you still saying that you need a security person at every elementary?
Yeah, I would like to stick into what is the best way to defend and have second line of defense should the first defense system fails. As I said, somebody could have a clean driver's license, all that record is fine, and passes the front entry, and something could still happen because we're not watching them now.
We have a very close relationship with Chino PD and the Sheriff's Department. And we have the key communicators that you just attended, and I know you've attended before, and you have, Mr. Naw and Mrs. Blair. I think in light of what's happened in Florida, we can have a new discussion.
Yes.
Because they are the experts. We are not the experts when it comes to security. We have to defer to law enforcement, okay? We might try to put, you know, take $1 million and put it into security, and it's the wrong security, okay? And so I think we need to defer to the people who know what they're doing with that.
Sure.
So that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion, I think. But however, we need to protect our security officers, providing them with bulletproof vests. It's less costly, but so they're protected to protect our students and our teachers. There's small things that we can make difference right now. That's how I feel.
Mr. Cruz.
And like you said, we want to assure the parents that they're safe at the schools. And I think that's the issue right now. Some parents are feeling unsafe, which is justified, what happened.
Hearing no other questions, Mr. Stachura, you're off the hook.
Thank you. I appreciate you bringing this information.
We will get that additional detail for you.
I appreciate that.
We are now at comments from our student representative, Jonah.
Good evening, everyone. Today we had our 38th annual Student Government Day, and we had over 100 kids participate in the city of Chino, the city of Chino Hills, the district office, and serve as principals for the day at elementary schools and junior high schools. I was fortunate enough to be principal for a day at Cal Aero Preserve Academy. This was not only my past elementary school, but also my past junior high school. And my day started off with greeting the classrooms, and then I moved to an assembly where I had a Q&A with the 8th graders. And basically they were asking questions about high school from a Cal Aero student's perspective. And I felt they got a lot of insight coming from someone with the same experience that they'll have. And overall, many of our students learned about our local government, and this concludes my comments.
Thank you. We are now at comments from employee representatives. Danny Hernandez, CSEA President.
Good evening, President Fikes, Superintendent Joseph, Board, and Cabinet. I wanted to start off with a few notices. We are about to send 12 classified employees to the Paraeducator Conference next week at the Ontario Convention Center, February 20th, 21st, and 22nd. This year we had a little bit of glitches in how they were supposed to register. Last year, I believe we sent twice that amount, but we're appreciative to send those 12. We're also sending, at last count, 9 members from the MOS Maintenance and Operations. I wanted to thank Martin Silvera. We had 10 slots open, and it's an M&O Academy, Maintenance and Operation Academy at Upland Junior High School, March 3rd. Also, February 24th at Magnolia, we have a PERS pre-retirement seminar. And again, we have very good turnout of 170 people signed up so far. I wanted to, again, thank the district for allowing the district to pay for it and allowing the members to go. I was at a training a couple of weeks ago, and it was at Upland Junior High School. And a few of the things that happened the last few days, it struck me today that it's really important. And it's to ask yourself about, before you post something online, on Twitter, on Facebook, on any other app you think of, is, number one, is it true? Is it a rumor? Is it kind? This one struck me. Would I like me? And 5, would you maintain your integrity by saying these things? Right now, I think just because everybody's online in some way or another, these 5 questions, anytime you post something, reply to something, maybe we should ask ourselves these questions. And with that, that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Mr. Ball has already told me he declines to comment tonight.
I'm not going to cough all over the microphone. Let's sit here and cough all over Don.
Okay. So Yvette Farley from Champ.
I don't think that's worth. I'll cough all over it for you. Never hold them. Yeah, I would like to begin by saying it was a great student government day. So thank you to those who have organized it. Everyone appeared to have a great experience. On behalf of the administration team, it is one of those days that we look forward to on our campus. So kudos to you all who have planned that day. Another great announcement, our AXA award recipients were announced yesterday, and I'm proud to say that Chino Valley is being represented with 3 of the awards. We have Carl Hampton, who is receiving the award for adult education, Dr. Enfield for our central office, and Tom Mackesy for our elementary principal. So congratulations on behalf of Champ. It is a pleasure, of course, making the nominations and recognizing our own, and then it's even a greater surprise and a feel of accomplishment when our own get recognized. The award ceremony will be on April 23rd at the Doubletree Hilton in Ontario. So we're also very excited that it's local. So, and it is not on a board meeting night this year, so even we hope to see you all there. CHAMP is also hosting a speaker event on March 6th at the PDC 2 from 4:30 to 6:30. And it is on Students Assistant Programs, PBIS, and Restorative Justice Practices. Our speaker will be Marissa Lazo-Necco from San Bernardino County Schools, and she is the SAP PBIS Parent Engagement Project Manager. Very excited to bring that presentation to our district. Some of the highlights will be the introduction to community circles and restorative practices in the classroom and on school sites, how to build strong and healthy relationships with students, and how to increase student engagement for greater academic success for all students. We've been working really hard at trying to bring more speakers into our district. One of the things I wanted to talk about was as you were talking about security issues on campus, what our leadership team has been tasked to do is a heavy load. In light of the Florida shootings, oftentimes we walk away thinking that our actions and our decision makings and what we get up and do every day oftentimes make us feel like maybe we're not doing such a great job, that we're failing. That's why the speaker event's not an answer to it all, but it is something that we've been working really hard at in our district with our PBIS initiatives, our mental health initiatives, school safety initiatives, that oftentimes it is a huge task, but we get up and come to work every day and want to do a good job and want to feel that we're successful. And a lot of times that means providing those opportunities for collaboration and bringing of the minds together to raise our children in healthy communities. This is all our task. Some of you know that a week ago I lost my mom. And my brother and I had a conversation. And of course, you know, whenever there's a death, you often reflect on your meaning of life and what you do and your purpose. And the conversation that we had was, how is it that we as a family have four siblings, 2 brothers, 2 sisters, that in a time where all the statistics say we should not have been successful students. We came from parents, I had a mom who spoke no English, parents who had a junior high education, lived in, let's say, medium to low poverty, a community, unemployment, parents who were not raised by their own parents. So statistically, probably should have failed, but we did it. And so we had the opportunity to really spend some time with my mom before she passed. And a lot of times, of course, you want to always know, well, what are those successful tips, those things that, you know, you raised 5 kids in a manner that allowed us to be successful. And I bring this up because I want our school community, our parents, our students, our teachers, and our administrative team to make sure that they do look at the positives. And so some of the things that she said was, well, you know, I focused only on my own roof, you know, what happened in my own home. And the reason being, she says there's a lot of negative out there, but when you focus on your own roof, you can look at a lot of the positives. And so what you're instilling is a positive perspective. She said, well, make sure you do something. And she said, small actions have a great impact. So that was another piece of advice that we took. And then she said, carry a small rock. And then I got a little worried. So I was like, not sure what she wanted us to do with the rock. But she said, carry a small rock, because that's going to be a reminder to you that there will always be obstacles. There will always be things that get in your way. And oftentimes we think of them as big boulders. But if you carry a small rock, it keeps everything again into a simple perspective. And it's something that you can share with others, that if you feel that that rock is a little too heavy, sharing it with someone else helps you carry those burdens. So on behalf of CHAMP, I would like to remind not only our leadership team that it may oftentimes seem like we're failing because the initiatives seem so heavy, but if we keep that focus on your own roof, you know, and stay positive, and do something, that those small rocks are easy to handle. And so you can get up and go to work every day. So we'll continue to do our job, continue to work on those initiatives, because really what we do about building a strong community, we don't do it alone. And we get up and do it because it's important. So thank you on behalf of CHAMP. Congratulations, congratulations. We hope to see you at either our speaker event with more information to follow, and of course at our Access celebration. Thank you.
Next, we have community liaisons. Art Bennett from Chino Hills, not here. Paul Rodriguez from the City of Chino.
Good evening today. Good evening. What I'd like to say is that I want to repeat that this was the 38th Annual Student Government Day, and I want to thank the Chino Valley Unified School District for collaborating with the city for having a very successful day. We had approximately 16 students from Buena Vista High School, Chino Hills, Chino High School, and also Don Lugo High School. During the event, the students were able to participate in a mock city council meeting, and they played many of the different positions as mayor. One student played mayor, another one played council, one played myself, and so forth. But I think the point of the day for the student day would be the opportunity that these students not only learned about their responsibilities, but also their obligations to continue to be civic-minded, to build their characters as civic characters throughout their lives, through and for not only themselves, but for the families that they will serve in the future. So once again, it was a very successful day, and I was very thankful to meet the students, talk to them on individual basis, and I want to thank the Chino Valley Unified School District for coordinating with the city and making this a very successful day. So this concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Krieger, you have something tonight?
I do. Rare occasion, but thank you. I come to you guys tonight kind of with a heavy heart about what happened in Florida. My thoughts and prayers go out to that community, as I'm sure all yours do as well. The discussion that you all had just a few minutes ago when Greg was up here is a discussion that needs to continue. And, you know, Mr. Na, you had one idea. Mr. Joseph, you were trying to address the mental health issues. Mr. Cruz, you came up with ideas. Everybody was collaborating, and those conversations need to continue to make our school safe. One of the many tools that we have available to us as a community is recognizing that, as Mr. Cruz said, this could happen again. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Hopefully not in our community, but we need to be trained, and we need to know how to react to it. So the Fire District and Chino PD and the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department all collaborate together to put on active shooter training for the community. And I know we've done some stuff here with the school district, and I'd like to make sure that we continue to do that. If your teachers, you know, through one of their in-service days or something, if we could do, you know, a larger event of that to make sure teachers are trained and site administrators, all personnel are trained on that. I'm sure that we can work that out to put on even more specialty training for you guys. But there is a community active shooter training program that's going to take place next Wednesday night at Chino PD in their community room. And you can find out the information through the Chino Police Department website or through our site at the Chino Valley Fire District website. And that's available for all community members to come out and get that training and simply take that extra step to be more aware. that's it for me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any liaisons tonight from Supervisor Hagman's office or anyone else I missed? All right. We are now at comments from the audience on items not on the agenda. Pat, are there any requests to speak on non-agenda items?
We have no requests on non-agenda, but one on the action item.
Okay. So, shall I?
You could do it now, or you could do it when
Pardon?
you could do the directions now, or
Okay.
when it comes up.
Speakers will be called in the order the request was received. Please listen for your name and be prepared to approach the podium. Any comments on agenda items will be accepted during consideration of that item, which will fall right after we finish all of these instructions. Once the board has commenced deliberations on an issue, speaker cards will not be accepted. The board is very interested in your comments, but please bear in mind that the board typically does not respond to comments during this time on the agenda, as it is reserved specifically for public comments. Individual members may respond during board comments at the end. Mrs. Blair, will you please explain the light system?
To our speaker, you have 3 minutes in which to make your comments. Please begin your comments at the green light. The yellow light indicates you have 30 seconds in which to complete your comments. The red light indicates your time is over. And before you begin your comments, please adjust the microphone as necessary so that you can be clearly heard. And audience members, please refrain from making comments while speakers are at the podium.
Please remember that in accordance with Board Bylaw 9323, bylaws of the board meeting conduct, limit remarks to 3 minutes total for all remarks, and please limit your remarks to new points. The board would like to remind you that there is a board policy 1312.1 for anyone who wishes to file a complaint against a district employee.
We are now at changes and deletions. Pat, are there any changes or deletions?
The following changes and deletions are on the agenda. Item 3B4, Business Services, Legal Services, page 24, under 2017-2018 year-to-date, Atkinson, Andelson, Lawyer, Root, and Romo. Correct the amount to read $128,034.34. Item 3D2, Facilities, Planning and Operations, Agreements for Contractor Consultant Services. Page 30 is yellow sheeted to add a new contract. And item 3E1, Human Resources, Certificated Classified Personnel Items. Page 52, under Retirement, Leonore Tamidlis, amend the date to read March 12, 2018.
Thank you. We are now at tonight's only action item. Pat.
Item 2A1, Resolution 2017-2018-14, Release of Temporary Certificated Employees.
Recommend the Board of Education adopt Resolution 2017-2018-41, Release of Temporary Certificated Employees, and authorize the superintendent or designee to send notice of release to employees affected with an effective date of June 30th, 2018. And this is where we have our speaker.
Robert Hartz.
Hello again. I do not come here to waste your time, and I do appreciate your time very much, and I respect your time. This is not going to be an impassioned and bolden speech. This is going to be a plea a little bit for a man that I know to be a very upstanding man, and that is, there's a lot of confusion surrounding why and what's going on with how he got this termination notice. He was given a letter that stated he had until the 30th of June to complete his CLAD certificate, and if that's the only thing that we have up, then I would hope that somebody would have it in their hearts to go tell this man that that's the case, because he has 100 people in his football program right now, and he's still serving them. He's serving them not knowing what he's going to be doing next year. And I sent you guys all an email before we started here, and I'm not sure that you received it, but I wanted to come here with the ultimate respect and not coming here before. And I know that I told you in that I had plenty of opportunities to be here before with the OPA thing. I did not choose to do that because I did not believe in that one as well. But I cannot begin to tell you how much heartache is going on right now with this man who's leading our youth. You know, he's there right now, and he is literally sacrificing time that he doesn't know he has. And can someone please just describe to this man, if it's just a matter of a certificate? I was a teacher for 2 years. And then I said, I'm out of here, man. I can't do this anymore. Okay, but this was in Rialto, and I got also pink slipped in 2002. And the pink slip, they set us all down. They told us, okay, so this is a budget issue with the state. You're all going to get one. You're going to get your jobs back. I was never asked to resign from my position. To be asked to resign from your position, it sounds like a very powerless spot, right? And you guys have a football coach who needs to be a very, very powerful human being. Do you imagine the confusion? Can you understand the confusion this man might have? You know, and he's not here speaking on his own behalf. He didn't show up with 100 students and parents. He didn't do that because that's not the guy he is. He doesn't show up here. He doesn't bark out on his own orders. He's a servant leader. This man is somebody that if we lose him, we will be worse off as a community. I promise you that. I don't stand for many things, but I do stand for this with unequivocal unshakability. Like, this is a man we need around our youth, around our parents, around you guys. Okay, he stands for what we believe in. He stands for all of this. I still got a green light, and that's really surprising because it went a lot faster last time.
I have no control of that, I promise you.
Yeah, but I do want you to know this is not anger. This really is just concern for our community. And can somebody please just be honest with this man? Just tomorrow, somebody just go tell him, get your clad, get it done, and you're good. We just can't do this thing. This is so bureaucratic and it's so awful. And I run businesses. I don't know how this happens. It's really, you guys must have heartache in your hearts right now. Like, it really is a bad thing. So I appreciate your time. And I waited around this long just to give you that. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
May I have a motion?
Yeah.
Motion.
A second.
Second.
Comments? Questions? Discussion?
I do have a question, because this says temporary certificated employees, which is different from the other group, correct?
Probationary, yes.
From the probationary?
Correct.
Okay.
They are different.
Got it. Okay, that's what I was going to look up, because that's where I was even conflicted on. So, okay.
So can you say that again, just to clarify?
Temporary status for a teacher is different than a probationary status.
And we are voting on a temporary status.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Mr. Cruz?
So one example would be if a teacher's on leave, and
Cor-
that would
Correct.
be a tap.
Districts are allowed to hire temporary teachers to replace regular teachers who are permanent, who are on a leave of absence, or they are filling a categorically funded position. Those teachers have a right to return to a position, so therefore the temporary teacher is hired in their place.
And they're hired knowing that they are temporary.
Correct. They also sign a temporary contract when they are processed and onboarded through with the district.
Are there
I wish
any other
Mr.
questions?
I just wish Mr. Hartz had stayed.
Oh.
Right? To get the difference of the two.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Preferential? The motion passes with a vote of 4-1. This concludes the action item. We are now at consent. Pat, are there any speakers on consent items?
No speakers.
Board members, do you have any polls? Mrs. Orozco?
None.
Mr. Cruz?
No.
Ms. Hernandez-Blair?
No.
Mr. Na?
I have none.
And I surprisingly have none also. For the remainder of the items on the consent items, may I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Na, seconded by Mrs. Blair. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Preferential?
Point of
The
clarification.
motion passes with a vote of 5-0.
I need a point of clarification.
Yes.
Item 3C1, were all the votes the same on those expulsions?
Yes.
They were 5-0?
5-0 and 4-0.
That's right, so it needed to be pulled.
I thought we said that if it was all, if it was unanimous, if there wasn't.
They're two different votes. One's 5-0, one's 4-0.
I
Because,
recused myself.
Right.
oh, and the other two were,
Full.
no, I'm sorry, two were 4-0.
Yeah.
And two were 5-0. So we need to pull the item.
To record the votes for the two that were the 5-0 and the two that were the 4-0. Otherwise, they would just be
All 5-0.
All right, so I'll pull the item.
You need the number.
3C1, page 25.
However, you need the correct numbers as to which ones were 4-0. and
I've
which
got
ones
'em.
were- You got them? So which ones were 4-0?
It's 07 and 08 are 5-0, and 12 and 14 are 4-0.
So you need to pull the 12 and 14.
Okay, so we'll pull 3C1, student 1718-12 and student 1718-14.
Second.
So move.
Second?
Now, do we need a roll call vote?
No, just a vote.
Just a vote? All in favor of 1718-12?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, that's 4-0. And all in favor of 1718-14?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that's also 4-0,
And one abstention.
with one abstention.
Recusal.
Oh,
Oh, she's abstaining, because the vote, the final vote is taken over here,
okay,
so she's abstaining.
right.
With one abstention.
So, Mrs. Kaler, have we adequately addressed the consent items then?
Yes.
Okay. We are now at information items. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, we are now at board member and superintendent communications. Mrs. Orozco.
Okay, so starting with our retirements, we have Kathleen Holmstrom, special ed teacher at Cal Aero with 4 years of service. We have Leonore Tamildis, 16 years of service, attendance clerk at Ramona Junior High School. Yanoris Cordero, 20 years of service, assistant principal secretary at Chino High School. Catherine Toole, 9 years of service, ROEIA career technician. And Denise Arroyo, where's Denise at? She should be here. Denise Arroyo, 39 years of service, so school secretary, and as we know, also served as CSCA president. So thank you all for your service, and we wish you a wonderful retirement. Had the opportunity to attend part of the annual Student Government Day today, simply because I had I had a meeting at ROP this morning, a special meeting. So I did get to meet the students, and I understand that there was a great conversation as far as the topics and whatnot, and so I'm just sorry I missed that, but did get to meet some wonderful students. I also had the opportunity to attend the Chino Boxing Club awards banquet. It was a really nice event, and had the opportunity to attend that. I'm going fast so that I don't have to keep us all here. Baldy View ROP, since I was there, Baldy View ROP has a really nice newsletter, which I've shared with the district before. And the first the first page shows that we had our first ROP student hired through Baldy View ROP and the partnership with UPS, which is new. And so that was really neat to see. We had, I have all my little stickies. We had one of our own students highlighted in the center from Chino Hills High School. Her name is Isabella Orozco, no relation, but she's still our student. And then we had Don Lugo highlighted in here. And so I just wanted to share that ROP has a really nice newsletter. You can actually go onto the website and check it out, and it highlights different schools and also different programs. And with that, I think I'm done. I'll conclude my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cruz.
Thank you. I also attended the Chino Boxing Association and also student government.
His microphone.
And, Farley, you brought something very interesting. And that was...
Your mic's not on.
Ms. Farley? Yeah, you mentioned something pretty intriguing, and that, you mentioned small actions and carry a small stone. What's that?
The small
a small
stone.
rock.
Small rock.
And when I, like for instance, Chino Association, you have the coaches, Pat Kaler's husband, he's a coach. And then you get student government where, you get the teachers and parents teaching children, they're doing things because of practice, watching others doing it. And then we have this gentleman, he was accepted to university. When we look at all this, one of the greatest things that we see, what you just said, and I mentioned it in student government, and that is being responsible. Taking responsibility, because the more we have it, the more we glorify ourselves. And it gives us so much meaning in our lives. So when you said that, it truly is being responsible, because through responsibility, we can do anything. Sometimes we can figure out fate and so forth, but when I see her instilling responsibility, the coaches instilling responsibility to the boxing kids, and then when I see the parents and the teachers instilling responsibility, teaching them that responsibility is a good thing, that it makes us heroic. Responsibility equates to being a hero, because we could do so much with that. We could just go beyond the stars. And we can say that God took responsibility as well. I'm a dreamer, and I was quite fascinated with Elon Musk, that heavy loader. I call it the Hammer Corvette from Star Wars. But what was so interesting, when that was launched, it was going to go around Mars. But what was so fascinating about that, at the tip of the rocket was his Tesla car. And then you had that astronaut. And that signified a lot when you're really down to it. That signified that space is not going to be driven by AI, but it's going to be driven by humanity, core humanity, the values. Because, actually, we are AI through the image of God. And our footstool will be the machines with machine hearts and machine minds. And I tell you, the symbolic was amazing, because there was no reason to put a Tesla on the tip of the rocket, but to show humanity that astronaut, it's going to be humanity that's going to move forward into outer space, not AI, because we are AI. And I think that was very important to show the kids that, hey, don't look at the machines. Look at yourself, because you are the product of the AI. So that was really beautiful to see that. And I'll be real frank with you. That could only happen having a gentleman like Elon Musk and having a president that believes in humanity. It just that's the way it is, because it would have never happened other than that. I was going to say something else, too. What was I going to say? The tragedy that occurred in Florida, that was an unfortunate thing. And some people could say it could be gun issues too. But we also have to consider about social media. The media distorting things and the lies and the deceptions that really hurt our children. So a lot of times we really have to think real hard what we're doing with our kids. Thank you.
Mrs. Blair.
I have recently, in the past few months, have been conducting a lot of research regarding safety in schools. Not necessarily just bullying, but other aspects of things that occur in schools that we don't report to parents. Investigations are held. Our children are interviewed, sometimes 2-3 times, oftentimes by a private investigator. And as parents, we aren't advised of what is going on. So I've been doing research, trying to determine what other school districts, what other states are doing. But I did find, through the California Department of Education, some interesting data for our school district. And I wasn't able to pull it up, but with the help of staff, cabinet, I have a report of total offenses committed in our district in the school year 16-17. And it's quite alarming because we talked about safety and being concerned by outside intruders. But all of these items were committed by our students. And I don't think that we're doing enough to accept the fact that we have students who have committed sexual harassment. We had 32 cases of sexual harassment. We had 5 sexual assaults defined under one of the penal codes, of the state penal codes, 261, 266, 286, 288, 288A, 289. The other thing that is concerning to me is if you combine the sexual harassment and the harassment or intimidation, and harassment can envelop many different things. We had 162 offenses committed last school year. There was an incident that greatly affected my family and students that I got to know through a sports activity. And that is why I became so involved, and I kept asking and seeking assistance about how we were going to address what had occurred, what students had witnessed. I can't say that it was resolved the way that I would have thought that it should have. But what I did find is the increase in sexual harassment and harassment cases at this one specific school site. In the 14-15 school year, there were 6 incidents of sexual harassment and or harassment under the California Education Codes 48-900.2 and 48-900.4. In the 15-16 school year, there were 18. This past school year, there were 39. That means these incidents have doubled. I want to ensure that my children and every other child that we are entrusted to represent has a school-safe environment every day. I don't want on my conscience or to ever be guilty that I didn't do the right thing for every student in this school district. So when we talk about safety and being concerned about those that may enter, we also need to be concerned about what is transpiring in our schools. Supervision on school buses, in locker rooms, in weight rooms, in classrooms. And I am not placing blame on anyone. What I've been doing for the past several months is asking, how do we avoid this from happening ever again to any student on any campus? So I'm hoping, again, that we consider peer mentoring courses similar to what surrounding school districts offer. There has to come a point where we accept the fact that we have a crisis within our schools. And we need to start looking at how to resolve that, because alarms and video cameras are not going to fix what is going on inside of classrooms and campuses, bathrooms, or any other aspect of our public schools. So I want to again bring this forward, and that we have an honest discussion at some point about providing some stronger mechanisms for safe school environments. And the last thing I want to say, and I wasn't going to, but Mr. Cruz mentioned lies and deception. And Danny Hernandez brought up the 5 things regarding social media, and the first thing was, is it true? And today there were many individuals advocating to save a coach. I'm all for that. My family and I supported the coach. There was never a concern from me about the coach. But to have placed blame on what was transpiring with that coach on my son, to have accused my child on social media, the number one aspect is it true? I want to apologize to my son, to my daughter, for having to endure what they've endured as I sit here as a board member, trying to do right, not just by my kids, but by every student. What occurred last month on that campus should not have taken place. I will not regret demanding a safe classroom for my child. I do not regret that. What I regret are the lies that adults chose to dispel via social media about me and about a 15-year-old who has nothing to do with any actions I take here, any actions that I may request be taken. He has nothing to do with it. And as I heard speaker after speaker defend and advocate for what they believed was right, I waited for someone to look at my son and apologize to him for having used him as a pawn in their advocacy. And I want to say to any student, those that are still here, those that may watch this, I have 2 more years on this board, and I will continue to serve you with pride, with dignity, and character. Gay, straight, households with same-sex parents, I don't care. I have 2 years to continue to serve you. I will continue to serve you. I will endure the attacks. All I ask and I plead on that camera, wherever the cameras may be, is to leave my children alone. Thank you.
Mr. Na.
I'd like to thank all the students who had come and joined us today on Student Government Day. It was so exciting to see that such a bright students that we had. It's been about 9 years. It's seen 9 groups of students, but I could say clearly this year's students was the best. I was going to tell them actually, stay until our closed session, and you guys can run our real meeting tonight. They were so good. And I can tell you up front, we have some students in the back. Our teenagers, our students, adults should never discount them. They have so many assets and they understand so many things, even though they don't tell you or they don't show. It's a talent that's given to all of our students. And most recently, at Chino Hills High School, one student had tipped me, our own Jonah, he's in like top 10 student in the whole school. So we have talents here. I'd like to thank Martin and Greg, a great team. Whenever I visit sites, they praise you guys. So thank you for being very attentive and being there for everyone. So thank you. I'd like to also thank our Chino champion reporters, where we had many guests here today and many students. But I could tell they weren't there to just write a story, but they were there because they were one of us, our own community members. There was a big difference. I can't remember the sports section reporter, but he was really moving too, and so just thank you just being here with us together. For good times, bad times, and sad times, it's okay. Thank you. I'm sorry that you have lost your mom. I have lost my parent too, and we have a principal who have lost own child. There are things that we don't have control over. I share with Steve there, but we don't have a choice to be born on this earth. We're here. But we're not here forever. And during that time, sometimes you might get rain, sometimes you get sunlight, sometimes you get good jobs, and sometimes you get laid off, and sometimes you exchange your cars to a better car or buy new houses and all that, and you have to move several times. But we have received this life for free. This is something that we haven't done anything. We haven't worked for it. We got it for free. So meantime, because there's a limit, as we have a limit in financial sources, resources, or friends, or anything, there's always a limit. So in this limited time, let's work together. As Trump says, America first, but let's define that. What it's going to be our first. And I could say it's people. Young, old, everybody. And we're in great progress because Mr. Joseph has been here for almost 10 years or more. I hope he could stay for another 10 years too. As a superintendent, another 10 years. Nothing to against Dr. Nomir. He's a great man. We need more mileage, and that's what I see. Like Lakers, you got old players that can't play down the road. So maybe he's pressing us. Well, you took all the books away, and I was hurt. When I walked into that room, there was nothing. It just became a storage one day. I was shocked, disappointed. But we have a great team. So we count the blessings. Never be negative. That's not what your mom wanted us to be. And that's not what my dad wanted me to be. So let's continue together to serve our students and make sure that they become great fathers and great mothers. Thank you.
Mr. Joseph.
I don't really have any comments tonight. I mean, there's been artificial intelligence. There's been me being old. My office is cleaned out. I have nothing to say. I have no comments tonight.
Well, I have just a couple of quick comments.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Are you done? Were you
Yeah,
done?
yeah,
I thought that was it.
I'm done.
You might remember, some people might remember, last meeting we had a teacher from Walnut present concerns about his classroom, and I went the following Monday. Of course, by the time which I thought was pretty good since he'd presented on a Thursday, of course he had to tell me Mr. Na was there first. He was there on Friday, the very next day, to look at the situation. But while I was there, Martin was there. And I just thought it made me so proud that people are responsive to issues that get brought to the school board. And I can tell you as an employee, I didn't always feel that. But as a board member, I see it, and it's very heartening. So I thank you. You're on the job. And then my last thank you is to Jonah here. I had to speak today at the luncheon, and I'm sure they don't have a lot of people my age climbing up those stairs, but I looked at it and thought, there's no way I'm getting up that stair with no rail or anything. So I probably looked pretty desperate and said to Jonah, I need help up there. And he helped me because, of course, I asked him. But I was mostly thrilled when it was over because I was really more worried about getting down than I was getting up. But I'd said nothing. He just had lingered off to the side until I came down. And so I thank you, Jonah. Those are beautiful manners, really appreciated by me and by others in our society. And so thank you very much. And with that, I adjourn the meeting at 9:11.